Jack M. Igor had not run out of songs. He had run out of surprise. The melodies still came when he asked for them. They arrived on time, behaved themselves, and resolved neatly. Verses knew when to step aside. Choruses landed where they were expected. Applause began early and ended politely. Jack found himself nodding along to his own performances, already anticipating the end while still playing the middle. He played the old songs because they worked. He played them because people knew when to clap. He played them because they no longer demanded anything of him. They were safe songs. They did not ask questions. They did not linger after the last note. Jack noticed the problem before the audiences did. That bothered him more than indifference ever could. After performances, people thanked him kindly, the way one thanks a chair for holding or a roof for not leaking. They meant well. Jack drank afterward, as was customary, but the drinking no longer quieted the feeling that something had already finished before it began. When Jack stopped writing, he started listening.
He listened to dock workers tying knots and counting under their breath. He listened to dock workers tying knots and counting under their breath, rhythms beaten into muscle rather than taught. He listened to market sellers calling prices that rose and fell with the day, melodies shaped by hunger and urgency. He listened to arguments that never quite became confrontations, to confessions offered too casually to be taken back, to exaggerations people told themselves until they hardened into something like belief. None of it was music. All of it wanted to be. Jack did not think of this as theft. It felt more like assembly, like taking scattered pieces of something already broken and seeing for the first time how they might fit together. He hummed while he walked. He tapped rhythms on tables and railings. He scribbled fragments on scraps of paper and lost most of them. The new song arrived without ceremony. Jack did not notice the moment it became whole. He only noticed that when he played it alone, it did not finish where he expected it to. It left space behind it. Not silence, but room. The first time he played it in public, the room grew quiet in the wrong places. This was not the attentive silence of appreciation. It was the silence of people who had stopped leaning back in their chairs. Conversations trailed off mid-sentence. Someone laughed once, reflexively, then did not repeat it. When the song ended, no one clapped immediately. They remained seated, as though waiting for something further that did not arrive. Jack waited too. He smiled uncertainly. Applause eventually followed, scattered and delayed. It was not enthusiastic, but it was sincere. Jack took it as a sign of depth. People did not cheer because they were thinking. That was good. That was new. Afterward, things happened that Jack noticed only because they did not usually happen at all. A couple near the back finished an argument by agreeing to stop having it, not resolving it, ending it. A man left early, coat half-buttoned, eyes fixed ahead as though the street had called him by name. A woman remained seated long after her companion stood, nodding slowly, as if confirming something privately decided. People thanked Jack afterward. They used words like clarity, readiness, relief. One man said, "I didn't know I'd been waiting to hear that." Another said, "It's strange. I feel lighter." Jack went home pleased. This, he thought, was what honesty sounded like. He played the song again 2 nights later, in a different place, to a different crowd. The effect was stronger. Word had spread, not loudly, but insistently. People came prepared to listen rather than to be entertained. The song landed harder there. Jack could feel it while he played, the way attention pulled toward him rather than drifting away. When he finished, people exhaled as though they had been holding their breath together. The applause came later, but when it came, it did not stop quickly. Afterward, the thanks were more specific. "You've put words to something I've been circling for years," someone said. "I finally know what I have to do," said another, smiling with visible effort. Jack nodded. He accepted their gratitude. This was what songs were for, he told himself. Inspiration, movement, action. Among those who thanked him was a man responsible for keeping the lamps lit and the guard beacons stocked. It was ordinary work, necessary work, the sort that rarely invited comment unless it was neglected. The man smelled faintly of oil and damp wood.
He carried himself with the careful balance of someone used to climbing narrow stairs and leaning into wind. "I climb the tower most days," the man said conversationally, as though this explained everything. "Keeps the lamps burning, keeps the beacons ready. Wet firewood when it's needed, dry when it isn't." Jack nodded politely. "You've made me believe I can do this," the man continued, eyes bright. "I can fly, Jack, fly, and I'll prove it." Jack smiled. He had heard worse metaphors that evening. He thanked the man and turned to greet someone else. The song continued to spread. Not widely, but deeply. Jack played it again and again. Each time, the response intensified. People argued afterward. Decisions that had been postponed for years arrived all at once. Some choices were small: leaving a table early, speaking a truth that had been carefully avoided, quitting a job with no plan beyond relief. Others were larger. Relationships ended. Long-standing grudges found words sharp enough to cut with. The song did not compel anyone. It did not enchant or command. It did something more subtle and more dangerous. It removed the weight that usually slowed people down.
It took the hesitation out of belief. Jack felt successful. More than that, necessary. He had written something that mattered. He had finally said something new. On a morning like many others, the lamp and beacon keeper began his rounds. He carried firewood as he always did. He climbed the tower stairs he knew by heart. He paused where he always paused, hand on the rail, listening to the wind. The tower was familiar. The height was familiar. The view was familiar. He climbed higher than required. There was no crowd, no announcement, no one to stop him or encourage him. The belief held long enough to step off. The sound did not carry far. Jack learned of it later, indirectly. A hushed comment at a corner table, a lowered voice speaking of an accident, a man from the towers, lamps unattended for a day. The details aligned too neatly to ignore. Jack did not ask questions. The song was not mentioned. He did not mention it either. He stopped playing the new song. The silence was noticed but not questioned. Jack returned to his old material, but it no longer sat comfortably under his fingers. The verses felt brittle. The choruses arrived too soon.
One evening, Jack passed the guard tower on his way through the city. He saw where the crowd had gathered earlier, the scuffed stone, the place where people had stood and looked down without quite knowing what they were looking at. Gravity did not explain itself. It did not need to. That night, Jack went to the hole in the wall. He asked for a pen and paper. This was not new. He got some. On the paper, he wrote the beginning of another song. It would not be the hit the last one had been. He needed to write it anyway. The words came slowly, and when they came, they did not soar. Come on strong and claim your quality. Believe in yourself, but also in gravity. Jack gave back the pen, folded the paper, and put it in his coat pocket. He was done working for today. Tomorrow, he would finish the song. For now, he stood at the bar and ordered a jar of ale. He was fine. He paid up front, like always. Jack always paid up front.